Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. So my name's Katie and today I'm going to be doing my next recent reads in a series of recent reads which is forever ongoing, and this is kind of the second half of my October wrap up. So yeah, just going to be talking about some books I've read recently and some new favourites. Oh well, yeah, kind of expected favourites in a way I guess, but I'm excited to talk about them. So let's just get started. So the first book I read was Daughter of the Forest by Juliette Marillier. And this is the first Juliette Marillier book I've read, which I really wanted to read one of her books to see how I liked her writing, because I thought I would like the kind of sound of it from the sound of it. I don't know what I'm saying. So this one I didn't actually realise until I started reading it is like a retelling of, I'm not quite sure what the story is like the original story, but it's the same story as Six Crimson Cranes by Elizabeth Lim. So we're following the main character Sorcery, and she is like living in the kind of Celtic woods with her family, and then she like gets a new evil stepmother who then curses her and her brothers. So her brothers have to turn into swans, I think it is in this story. They turn into swans and can only like become boys / men again at like twice a year or something. And then Saoirse isn't allowed to talk, and if any word she says will kill one of her brothers. So yeah, and then Saoirse ends up going on like this, she somehow ends up in Britain. She was an island, and the Brits and the Irish are like fighting, and she ends up as this like maid to this family. And anyway, so that's kind of what the story's about. It's mainly following Saoirse or Saoirse. I think it's Saoirse. The writing style was really beautiful. I like the sort of lyrical aspects to it. And the audiobook narrator, I wasn't the hugest fan of. I don't know, I quite liked her, but also she reminded me a lot of the Lyria narrator from Iron Gold, the audiobook. Just sometimes would be really over dramatic, and I'm not sure if it's the accent or if it was the acting, but like sometimes it was just really like over the top. I don't know. But yeah, and I did think it was a 26-hour audiobook. It did not need to be that long. The book was a bit too long for me. And normally I'm complaining about short books. I would want books to be longer, but I did just feel like this one just went on a bit too long. But I did like the kind of story. I think Six Crimson Cranes I still prefer as a that's like my top retelling, but I did enjoy this one. Gave it 3.5 stars. I actually really like the romance, which kind of comes, I would say, in the later half of the story, but I did like that. So her is a fairly standard protagonist. Like, she wasn't my favourite, she wasn't awful by any means, she was quite interesting. And I did like her sort of inner strength. Yeah, and there are a few fairly like brutal rape scenes, which I think just be aware of going in, like they're fairly graphic. And yeah, it's kind of, I would say it's almost like it has sort of grim fairy tale vibes, like it does get very dark in parts. So yeah, just be aware of that as well. But overall I would definitely like recommend it. And I think I was a bit unsure if I would read like the rest of the books in the series, because I think there's quite a few books, but I'm a bit of a sucker for like next generation stories, because I think the sort of rest of the books follow subsequent like generations, like Saoirse's children essentially. So I'm a bit of a sucker for that, so I probably will end up reading them. And actually I think it's a different narrator, so I'm also kind of tempted by that. So yeah, that's my thoughts on that one. And I read Aurora's End, which is the final book in the Aurora Rising trilogy. What did I give? I think I gave this one like 4.5 stars. No, not 4.5. 4 stars. 3.75/4 stars. Because I did enjoy this one. I thought Aurora Burning, which is the middle book, I was quite disappointed by. Like, I enjoyed Aurora Rising, but then Aurora Burning I thought was a bit like mediocre. But then I actually really enjoyed this one. It's still very like YA and very like cheesy and sort of over the top, but actually sometimes I do love a bit of cheese. And I like the sort of the story, like the characters are almost separated in this story, and I liked all the different like little clusters, and I liked how it played with time a bit. And I thought sometimes like it's not time travel exactly, but sometimes like when books start playing with time, it can be executed quite badly, but I actually thought this one was executed quite well and I enjoyed it. And I don't know, I just liked all the kind of drama that went down, like the action, and some of the characters are stuck in this kind of time loop, and I really like that whole section of the plot. Yeah, I guess we can't talk about like the plot in great detail because it's the third book in the series. I always struggle a bit with like the sequels, and I always get told I spoil too much. I'm sorry. Yeah, I enjoyed it, and I think if you made it through book 2, then you'll definitely enjoy book 3 because it's definitely better. And I liked how everything sort of wrapped up, and I liked seeing certain characters in different like times. I thought that was great. And yeah, I think it's fairly, like, I would say it's a fairly standard sci-fi. Like, there's kind of an evil like alien race trying to invade the galaxy. It's almost like, I would say it's almost the like Rahim, which are like the evil things, are quite similar to the proto-molecule from The Expanse. I'd say it's quite good, especially if you're not super into sci-fi. It's quite a good introductory sci-fi series because it does introduce quite a lot of concepts which are quite common in sci-fi, so I would definitely recommend it from that point of view. I do like some of the characters. I especially like Tyler, who's like the golden boy. I always love a good golden boy character. And his relationship in this book with, what's her name? Cal's sister, basically. She's like slightly evil. And yeah, I love that relationship. Love a good femdom. But yeah, so that is my thoughts on that one. And I read Daughter of the Moon Goddess, which I gave 4 stars / maybe like 4.25. I really like this one. This is another YA fantasy. I don't know why I said another because I haven't. I guess Daughter of the Forest arguably could be called YA fantasy. I would say it's more adult though. And then Auroras End is YA sci-fi, so I don't know why I said another, but yeah. And this one is a retelling of Changa, or the Moon Goddess. It's not even a retelling. It's following the daughter of. I always pronounced it Changi, which is so bad. But then Tammy pronounced it in one of her vlogs, so I think it's actually like Changa or Changa. I'm bad at pronunciation, but anyway, so it's the retelling. It's not a retelling, it's from her daughter's point of view. So she is the daughter of the Moon Goddess essentially, and she basically has been sort of illegally brought up by her mother and like her mother's friend on the moon, and the like celestial courts don't know about the daughter has to run away, and she goes to one of these like, the realm is like the celestial court realm, so she goes to one of the like nobles kind of families as a servant, and then she gets sort of captures the eye of like the prince, and gets taken into this sort of competition thing to compete to be like the prince's best friend essentially, and so we're kind of following her growing up, and then we follow her when she's a bit more grown, and like she and the prince have this angsty like will they won't they relationship going on, which I really enjoyed. And then there's also like the guard captain. I'm not sure he's quite the captain, but like an up and coming guard in the Royal Imperial Guard, whatever it's called, there's like a bit of a love triangle sitch going on, but which I actually really enjoyed. I thought this was one of the best love triangles I've seen in YA, and I think I enjoyed this book. Like, I was enjoying it fine until about 70%, 80%. Then something happens, and I was like, ah! This is like one of my favourite tropes. And then I absolutely like loved the last kind of third of the book, quarter. Yeah, so yeah, there's a god tier betrayal, and it just, you don't see it coming, but once it's happened it makes perfect sense, and oh, it was just so good. I loved it. So yeah, I would definitely recommend it. I think this was an arc as well, and I think it comes out in about January next year. So I definitely recommend it, and the writing was really beautiful as well, and it was a good like, it was a good level of beautiful. Like, it wasn't over the top, it was just kind of almost really subtle, but everything was so sort of vivid, and it was almost like reading a dream in a way. I think that's a good way to describe it. Yeah, so I enjoyed that one, and I love some of the characters. I especially love the like guard captain guy, one of the like love triangle. I also really like the prince as well. yeah, I always like it when you can like root for both love interests. So yeah, I enjoyed that series. And there's quite a lot of other like politics and stuff going on, but obviously what matters to me is the love triangle. So yeah, I would definitely recommend that series. It's not even a series, it is a series, but only one book's out. It's the first book. So okay, so then I read Summer Suns by Lee Mandello, and I gave this one like 3.75/4 stars. This one is following this guy called Andrew who lost his best friend Eddie in like mysterious circumstances, but it's thought that everyone thinks Eddie committed suicide, but like Andrew's convinced that's not what happened. So he goes to Nashville, which is where like Eddie was when he died, because like they were going to go to college like together, but then Eddie had gone ahead of time, so, and then died. So Andrew is going to like investigate what's happened. And there Andrew comes across his like Eddie's friends who was like into like I don't even know what it's called, car racing. I don't know what the term is, I'm obviously not cool enough, but yeah, that kind of thing, like what's it even called, joyriding? No, it's kind of like joyriding but racing. Oh, I don't know. And like drugs, and there's all this like, yeah, drama. And there's also this mystery going on. Well, yeah, because Eddie's dead, and then Andrew's being haunted by this like a creepy ghost of Eddie essentially, and I think they've been able to like see the supernatural since they were like kids, and they had this event happen in like a haunted house. Anyway, it's quite spooky, like the vibe is almost like a dream, and there's this whole like almost oppressive like sweltering atmosphere going on, because it's like set I think in the South, like American South, and it's like that kind of gothic southern horror vibes, which I did really like. The like vibes and the atmosphere I thought was really good. And then at the same time, so they're investigating this mystery, what's happened, and then Andrew's making his new friends. Andrew is very like not messed up, he's very like in grieving and doesn't make the best decisions and is quite self-destructive at times. So it's quite good to see his like arc, because he almost kind of healing in a way throughout the book. Questionable. There's a line which is like, what about this situation feels well adjusted or heterosexual to you? And that's like a great summary of the whole book, because another big theme is like queerness, and Andrew kind of discovering his queerness, and him and Eddie's relationship is a very sort of, he thought they were platonic, but as the reader they were clearly not. There is clearly some unrequited feelings going on there, and then actually one of the new people that he meets called Sam, they kind of have a bit of a relationship thing going on, which I actually quite like that. And him just discovering his sort of queerness, I thought that was a good storyline as well. So I did like it. I just think there was something that like made me not like absolutely love it. I think partly okay, so the narrator for the audiobook, because I listened to the audiobook, had a southern accent, and I liked it and I thought it added to the atmosphere, but also I feel like it hindered my enjoyment slightly. I don't know why, because I felt like it added to the story, but also something about it was a bit weird. I don't know. It probably won't bother you if you're, especially I think if you're American and like used to the accent. I didn't quite love the characters enough to like give it a higher rating, but I did think it was really good for what it was doing, type thing. And sometimes it did just feel a bit like you were going around in circles. But yeah, I definitely still recommend it, especially if you like queer, dark horror type thing. I like those kind of vibes, so would recommend. Also, if anyone has any other books with those kind of vibes, definitely let me know, because yeah, it's the kind of like horror that I like I like kind of gothic horror, and like haunting type things. I'm not a fan of psychological horror. Yeah. Okay, and then I read Blood of the Chosen, which is the sequel to Ashes from the Sun. I forgot the first one then. And I enjoyed this series. I think I gave this one like 3.5, 3.75 stars. So following these two twins called Maya and Gaia, and they're basically on opposing sides of this big war that's going on. Maya is like almost like a prodigy of these, they're essentially like the rulers of the world, and then the people with like magic powers help enforce the like rule of the empire essentially. So she's like working for them, and then Gaia's like a rebel, and so this is what's happening in book 1. And then certain events have happened at the end of book 1, and then we're kind of dealing with the aftermath of that in book 2, and then they're going on other next quests to find out what's going on. And I'm trying to be really vague so I don't spoil anything, but I enjoyed book 2. I feel like I didn't like it quite as much as book 1. I don't know if that's because I read book 1 on audio and really liked the audiobook, and then it was just because I read it physically, because I read an arc, I didn't like it as much physically, or if it was just the story didn't quite capture me as much. I don't know, but I still really like the characters, and especially Kit, who's one of the characters. I love her, and Maya and Beck, who are like a couple, and I like seeing that sort of like female established couple, and they're really sweet with each other, and I like that. Like finding out more about the kind of magic and like mystery that's going on in the world as well. So I thought it was a good sequel. I thought maybe there was a slight bit of second book syndrome going on, but I did think the ending was really good. Like the last kind of quarter really like stepped it up, and if that had been the whole book, it would have been like 4.5 stars easily. So I'm quite excited for book 3. But yeah, I do enjoy the series actually. It's like a fun, light-hearted fantasy. Although it does get kind of dark in points, it's still kind of like light-hearted to read. So yeah, it's enjoyable. And then I read Night Shine by Tessa Gratton, and I really enjoyed this one. So I gave it like 4.75 stars type thing. And this one we're following this girl called, I can't remember if she's called Nothing or Nobody, Nothing. And she is like a kind of servant-y thing in the palace, and she befriends the prince, Kirin, and they like have a great friendship growing up. And then one day Kirin gets stolen by this sorceress, who's like an evil sorceress. She's called the sorceress who eats girls. And then Nothing is going to rescue Kirin along with Kirin's bodyguard called Sky. And yeah, so it's really good. I just like the story. Like Nothing is like this feral little orphan who I love, that kind of character. I think I'll be mentioning more characters like that in the rest of this video. But yeah, so I really like Nothing. I really like Sky. He's like this himbo bodyguard. I just love him. And then Kirin is a really interesting character as well. He's kind of quite actually a bit, not evil, but like he's quite selfish and can sometimes be a bit of a douchebag, but I still liked him, and like seeing it through Nothing's eyes was really interesting. And Kirin is gender fluid as well, so that's kind of partially why he's been stolen by the sorceress who eats girls. I also love the sorceress. Oh, love it, evil female villainess. Yeah, and there's a sapphic relationship in this, and there's also a Achillean relationship between Sky and Kirin, which I really liked. It's all very kind of queer and vibey. It's good. It reads like a Studio Ghibli film, which I loved. Like the atmosphere is just so good. There's all these like cute little sprite creatures as well, which is really cute, and just the whole sort of vibes was just really great. So I definitely recommend it. And the way the characters kind of speak to each other as well was kind of unique in a way. Like I've not seen that kind of dialogue used that much, but I quite liked it. It's just very sort of angsty in a way. I don't know, but I would definitely recommend this. I enjoyed it. It's a slightly unfortunate cover, but I still think it's really good, and Tessa Gratton's writing is so beautiful as well. I feel like that adds to like the vibes. It's just very kind of lyrical and well written. So yeah, I would definitely recommend this one. Then I read Fool's Quest, which is the second book in the Fits and Fool trilogy by Robin Hobb. I love this one. This one sent me off the wall. Oh, my emotional stability will never recover. This, like, book 1, wild things happen. Book 2, it gets even wilder. I have many questions for Jade about his virility, but yeah, so a lot happens in this book, although also at the same time not a lot happens. But I really liked it, especially a lot of Fitz and Fool moments in this one, which I love so much. There's so many like tender moments almost, which I really liked. And I love how by the end of the book, Fitz has basically at this point just accepted that they're like a couple now. And that's even more true in Assassin's Fate. But yeah, I just really like this one. I like seeing Fitz and his sort of journey throughout the book, and his attitudes to what's happened being as vague as possible. And then also I like how we get B's POV as well, because I like this in Fool's Assassin as well, but having just another perspective other than Fitz I think is really interesting. And also seeing Fitz through someone else's eyes, because you've never really seen that before. So I love B. She's a great character. I love C. Although I think the only complaint I have of this book is there wasn't enough B chapters. But yeah, I liked her story in this book. And yeah, Fitz and the Fool, oh, I love them. I especially actually one of the characters, Shine / Shun, she really grew on me in this book. Although towards the end she then tapered off again. But the parts when she was with B especially, I really liked. Especially liked how this book ended and how it set up for what's going to happen at the start of book 3. And like where they end up type thing. And that just made me so excited. And just seeing everything, and oh, it's so good. And you feel like it's all coming together. Yeah, it was definitely an emotional ride, but all Robin Hood books are. Yeah, and I'm just very excited for Assassin's Fate. I am currently about halfway through Assassin's Fate, which is and I really like it so far. Although it's partially like just Fitz watching all this drama go down. But yeah, I like it. And I think the Fitz and the Fool books are definitely my favourite, like of all the Realm of the Eldlings. Like this trilogy has been my favourite trilogy. I just love it. Yeah, so that's that one. Yeah, 5 stars, obviously. That was 10 stars. Okay, and then after that I read The Taking of Jade Livingston, which is a YA sort of contemporary / paranormal thriller type thing. We're following Jake, who can see ghosts, and he can like see the ghosts. The ghosts are on like a death loop almost, so he like sees the ghosts at the moment of their death. He starts getting haunted by this ghost of someone called Sawyer, who was a school shooter. And Sawyer is somehow coming like through the veil to kill more people, to try and like complete the kills he didn't make in like while he was alive. So Jake's trying to like solve what's going on and save more people from dying essentially. And he's also teaming up with some of the ghosts who died in this shooting, which I thought was interesting. And also at the same time we're kind of following a bit like Jake's home and school life and his like struggles with that, and his kind of struggles, it's not really struggles with sexuality, but just him sort of coming to terms with it and being more confident in it. I quite like that as well. And his kind of relationship with his family, there's a bit of tension there, which I thought was interesting. So I kind of like that. I just felt like the book was quite short and we didn't get a lot of time to get to know Jake that well as a character, like because quite a lot is going on in the plot, so we didn't get a lot of kind of character moments. But I did quite like some of the more spooky side of things. Like I like the ghosts, and there's some quite like horror-y elements to it, which I quite liked as well. I think Sawyer as a character, because we get his like diary entries as well, I thought was kind of an interesting choice, because you almost feel sympathy for him, but also he did this horrible thing and you don't want to feel sympathy for him. So it's like a bit of a like question there. But I guess maybe that's the point. But I thought I think you almost take on Jake's attitude to things, which I thought was quite well done. I don't know if I'm explaining that very well. But yeah, it's not like a book I would read again. I gave it about like 3 stars, but it's still a book that I think is enjoyable to read. So that's my thoughts on that one. Okay, and then I read Legacy of Steel, which is the sequel to Legacy of Ash. I really enjoyed it. I gave it 4 stars. I like this series. It's very like classic fantasy, but it's not like my all-time favourite classic fantasy, or like classic fantasy, like standard fantasy. I don't know what the best descriptor for it is. But I still really enjoy it, and I think Legacy of Ash I enjoyed, but it took me a long time to get into. Whereas this one I was sort of into it a bit quicker, because like I already knew the characters and like the world, and I think especially in the first one there's a lot of POVs and a lot going on, but I sort of got into it a bit quicker in this book, and I almost feel like this one was slightly better like structured in terms of it would have little chunks of characters, like it wasn't just POV, 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 it'd be like a group of the same PV and then a group of the same PV, and I don't know, I just tend to prefer that structure a little bit because then it allows you to like follow one character for a while. Yeah, I really like the sort of, especially reading it in October, there's quite especially the magic in these books, there's quite an element of like horror and creepiness to it, which I liked, and there's quite a big part in these books of like this kind of crow market and these like bird demon things, which I like that element to it. And some of the characters I really love, especially Kirkus. I love him and his relationship with Anastasia, and I'm not quite sure. It looks like Anastasia to me, but it's kind of a bit of fantasy spelling, but their relationship is so funny. And Anastasia is like this demon lady, and Kirkus is like this old grumpy captain, gay dad type vibes, and I just love them together. And I also like Anastasia and Javis and their like romance. He's not called Javis, is he? That's from Baneshard Emperor. What's he called? Jossery. I like him as well. He's like fairly standard like fantasy protagonist. Victor I thought had a really interesting arc in this book. There's a few younger characters, one of whom is called Sidara, and she like has this powerful like light magic, which I thought was really interesting, her story. And then Rosa and Saveka, and they are a couple in this book, and I was like so proud of my gaydar because it was pinging in book 1, and now they're like, they start this book like married, and oh, I knew it, and I really liked their arc throughout the book. So yeah, I would definitely recommend this series, and I will be reading book 3, although maybe not for a while because they are huge books. And I had to get to this one because I had an arc bit from March. Excited to see what happens in the final one. Although I did miss a certain MILF in this book, but yeah. Okay, and then very excitingly the next book is Jade Legacy by Fonda Lee, which I absolutely loved. 5 stars, obviously. Oh, I don't know which is my favourite book in this one, whether it's Jade Legacy or Fool's Quest, but yeah, I love them both so much. But anyway, so yeah, I gave it 5 stars. I loved Rumoon Saga. The finale was just the best like finale you could have asked for. Like just everything that went down just wrapped up so well, and like character arcs. I thought Hilo's arc, especially in this book, was just chef's kiss. And I love getting to know the kids as characters, because I feel like Jade Legacy takes place over about like 30 years or something. So you really see like relationships grow and relationships change and characters grow and characters change. And it just creates this really epic sort of scope to things, which I was a little bit like hesitant, like would I like it, would I not? The like big time jumps and things, but I actually really liked it, and I thought it added that like element of kind of multi-generational saga to it all. Yeah, so many like dramatic events happened, and just there were times when you were like left breathless and like really worried, and I don't know, I just loved it. I love all the characters like And and Shay, when they are all faves. Hilo, who I have mixed feelings towards, but I thought his arc in this book was just so well done. He's such a well-written character. I love the kids. Love the kids. Rue especially, a little feral cinnamon roll. Love him. Jaya, I thought was great. She's so like a mini Hilo, who I love. And Nico, I thought was really interesting, and his sort of arc and I thought his personality is very interesting as well, because he's almost like a quieter, more reserved character, And I guess in a way it reflects his kind of parentage, but yeah, I like him. And who's the other one? Oh, Tia. Oh, Tia is so precious. Yeah, so I loved all the kids and seeing them kind of grow up and like getting to know them. I just thought it was so great. There's some very painful moments. And even certain things which I sort of knew were gonna happen and wasn't expecting to be that torn up over it, but actually the way it was done made me really emotional. And then there was a scene, I was having like an absolute breakdown on Twitter, and I was reading this chapter as well on like the day before my period. So the emotions were very heightened. And yeah, just some really sad, like I definitely had tears in my eyes at times. And yeah, yeah, it was a very emotionally charged book, but yeah, I just cannot recommend it enough. If you haven't read the Green Moon Saga, what are you doing? Read it. Jade City is the first one, where it is there, following the family called the Cause, and it's really their family story. There's a lot of like drama and action and politics that goes on, but like at the heart of it is their like family story. And yeah, I just loved it. Oh yeah. Yeah, so would definitely recommend 100%, 1000%. So yeah, that's that one. And then the last two, so I read The Coldest Touch, and I actually really enjoyed this one as well. I gave it 4 stars. It kind of reads a bit like Twilight, but it's sapphic, so that obviously adds about 10,000 points. And actually it just gave me all the like nostalgia from like vampire books of the like 2010s. I like reading when I was like quite a young teenager. It just gave me those vibes and like that nostalgia and that comfort, which I think just added to everything. But actually some of those books, I think if I went back and read them now, would be absolute trash, but this one was actually well written. And it was just really enjoyable. I really liked the whole like paranormal supernatural element to it. I thought it was well crafted. The vampires kind of reminded me a bit of Vampire Diaries vampires, which again is like another like nostalgia. And yeah, what was I gonna say? Oh yeah, so following Elise, who lost her brother in like a tragic accident. Although now I'm thinking about it, I'm fairly sure the accident is almost identical to how Elena's parents die in Vampire Diaries, but anyway, and since the accident she started being able to see people's deaths when she touches them. And so she's kind of struggling with this, and she's struggling with grief as well. And then this new character comes into town called Claire, who is this like glamorous I don't know, but essentially Claire's a vampire, which isn't a spoiler because you get Claire's POV and you know she's a vampire pretty much from the prologue. So yeah, and then she sort of is trying to recruit Elise to this organization called the Veil, which is a like organization of supernatural creatures. And Elise is essentially this thing called a death oracle, so they're trying to get her like on side, and Claire's trying to like train her and mentor her. But to complicate things, murders start happening, so they're also trying to investigate these murders and like what's going on. And the previous death oracle to Elise was also murdered, so it's like what's going on. And then there's various characters like out for revenge. Claire's primary motivation as well in helping Elise is trying to get revenge on the person who made her into a vampire, so like that's interesting. And there's just all this like drama and vampire action, and it's just all really good. And I actually really like the relationship as well between Elise and Claire. And it was just like, it's like that like good paranormal angsty drama, but it's also kind of sweet in a way. And so yeah, I just liked everything about it. Would highly recommend. It's great fun. So yeah, that's that one. And then the final book I read in October was The Mask of Mirrors by M.A. Carrick, and I really love this one. I gave this one 4.5 stars. Vargo, one of the characters, is the new love of my life. I love him so much. He's like this crime lord. He's so like trickstery. I don't know, he's just kind of, he's not evil, but like he's just that kind of like spidery character. I don't know, I really like him. But we're basically following Ren, who is trying to pull off a con on the nobles of the city, and she's pretending to be a noble to get into this house. She can be like adopted by them and like get their money and stuff. She's kind of the main story, but at the same time there's all these things happening in the city, like the houses are like plotting against each other. And yeah, there's various like drama going on. Vargo as well, who I already talked about, but he kind of recruits Ren to be like his almost advocate for getting like contracts and things. And then we're also following another character called Grey, who is like a police officer essentially. They're called Hawks, but that's what they are. And he's like trying to get revenge for his brother who died mysteriously. And then there's also this masked vigilante called the Rook, who you don't know who the Rook is, and that's actually really fun trying to figure out, because you sort of know the Rook is maybe one of the POVs that you're reading from, but you don't know who it is, so it's kind of fun to try and figure out. My guesses were kind of mostly wrong, although towards the end my guess was very adjacent to what it actually ended up being. But it makes me look forward to book 2. And also book 2 apparently is Varga's book, so yay. Yeah, so I really liked all the characters. They're all great fun. Ren is a great character, and then she also her like siblings, they're not real siblings, but they're like found family. Tess and Sedge, I like them. Tess is like her maid, posing as her maid, and I always love the like maidy characters. And then the family that she's trying to get into, I really like them. Liato, who is like the son, and Gianna is the daughter. I like both of them. And all the characters are just a lot of fun, and it's really like intricate. Sometimes I felt like it was a little bit too convoluted. But I don't know, the writing was just kind of fun. It doesn't take itself too seriously, but at the same time it's very like well crafted. There's a lot of world building, which I really liked. So it was good. I just noticed utterly captivating is S.A. Chakraborty's quote, which I agree with. Yeah, so it's just a lot of fun, and it gave me a lot of vibes of like Lies of Locke Lamora, which is another series I really enjoy. So if you like that, I think you'll definitely like this. And it's very like the city where it's set is very like Venetian, and there's all this like dream magic type thing. Actually, the magic's really interesting because it's like dreamy and like astrology and like tarot, and it's all very interesting. So yeah, I would definitely recommend, and I'm looking forward to reading the sequel soon. I've requested an arc, so hopefully I get approved, but even if I don't, it's out in December, so we won't have to wait too long. But yeah, so that's that one. I'm just looking forward to a Vargate book. Yeah, so that's that one. I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know in the comments the book you've read recently, and your thoughts on it. I would love to know. And if you enjoyed the video, please give it a like and consider subscribing if you haven't already. And I hope you're all having a really great day, and I will see you next time.